The noise at John F. Kennedy International Airport was like a disturbed beehive. Emily Hayes stood by the terminal's glass wall, watching her best friend, Ashley, slowly disappear into the boarding line. The flight to Miami was half an hour late, but Ashley had insisted that Emily not wait for her. "Go home to Noah," she told her. As she hugged her friend goodbye, telling her they would see each other in a week, Emily was in no hurry to leave. For the past few months, her house no longer felt like a home. Ethan always came home late from the law firm, claiming he had urgent cases to finish. And when he was home, his mind seemed to be elsewhere. He was always lost in thought, and even the news of her pregnancy hadn't sparked the joy Emily had expected from him. Maybe he is just stressed from work, she thought as she caressed her belly, still barely noticeable. At her age, being a family physician, she was used to analyzing symptoms, but when it came to her relationship with her husband, her professional intuition seemed to vanish. She decided to buy a bottle of water before heading home, so she walked over to a coffee shop in the waiting area, and there, her world fell apart. In a corner, almost hidden by a pillar, sat Ethan. Her husband, who the night before had told her he had a business trip to Chicago the next day, was embracing a young blonde woman in a flashy pink suit. The woman clung to him like two teenagers in love, not like mere colleagues. Emily felt the floor sink beneath her feet. Her pulse quickened. Her mouth went dry. She quickly stepped back behind the nearest pillar, hoping she had not been seen. Ethan was saying something to the woman as he caressed her hand. The woman laughed, tilting her head slightly. It was Pamela, Emily suddenly realized, the paralegal from her husband's office. The same 25-year-old woman Ethan often mentioned in his conversations. Pamela had a great idea to streamline the flow of documents. Pamela is brilliant. Pamela stays late to work overtime. Now it was clear what they were streamlining after work. Emily felt a wave of nausea, not from morning sickness, but from the crushing weight of betrayal. 5 years of marriage, 1 son, and another child on the way, 12 weeks along. Did all that mean so little to Ethan? She wanted to approach them, make a scene, demand an explanation, but something stopped her. Perhaps it was her survival instinct or her professional discipline to gather all the information before acting. Emily moved slowly, hiding behind other passengers, close enough to her husband and his mistress to hear their conversation. "Soon everything will be settled," Ethan was saying as he stroked Pamela's cheek. "In court, we will get everything, down to the last dime. What if she suspects something?" Pamela's voice sounded worried. Emily is too trusting. She is a doctor, not a lawyer. She does not understand the complexities of estate law. Ethan smirked dismissively. Besides, she is pregnant now, emotionally unstable. Even if she understood something, who would believe her? Emily gritted her teeth. Emotionally unstable. She would show him what instability was. But what if she sees the documents? Pamela was still uneasy. The documents, the evidence, the will, it is all in my red folder, and that folder is in my office. She has no access, Ethan said confidently. After the hearing, we will be millionaires. And your wife? Your son? We will get a divorce. I will leave her enough so she does not starve. I will take the boy. A boy needs his father. And the one on the way? Ethan shrugged. We will see. Maybe it won't even come to term with all this stress. You know, Emily felt the blood rush to her face. This man, the father of her children, was calmly planning to destroy her life, not just to leave her, but to rob her and take her son. They are calling for boarding for the flight to Miami, Pamela said, standing up. It is time to go, honey. Miami, not Chicago. Another lie for the collection. Ethan kissed her on the lips, a long, passionate kiss. Emily had not received a kiss like that from him in over a year. In 1 week, he whispered to her, we will be free and rich. They stood up and walked towards the boarding gate. Emily watched them, feeling something inside her break. It was not her heart. That was already numb. What had broken were her illusions, trust, faith in family. But as the initial pain subsided, it was replaced by something else. A cold, calculating rage. Ethan had underestimated his wife. Yes, she was a doctor, not a lawyer, but she was intelligent, observant, and had an excellent memory. And above all, she had something Ethan lacked: a conscience and principles. The red folder in the office. Emily repeated it in her mind. She had a second key to the office at home. Ethan had given it to her for emergencies. It seemed the emergency had arrived. Emily managed a faint smile for the first time in half an hour. Ethan wanted to play a game. Fine, but he had forgotten that in any game there can only be one winner, and Emily Hayes had no intention of losing. She took out her phone and dialed the number of Mrs. Davis, her son's caregiver. "Mrs. Davis, it is Emily. Could you watch Noah tonight? Something urgent has come up that I need to attend to." "Yes, very urgent business." It was time to find out what that red folder contained. When Emily got home, 4-year-old Noah greeted her at the door with a drawing of Mommy and Daddy holding hands with a little person next to them. "Mommy, look! It is us! The family!" the boy said proudly. Emily knelt and hugged her son. How would she explain to him that there was no family anymore, that his father had chosen another woman and was ready to take everything from them? "It is beautiful, sweetie." She kissed Noah on the head. "Where is Daddy?" "He said he would bring me a toy from his business trip." To faraway Miami, Emily thought bitterly. What would he bring Pamela? A ring, a bracelet, or perhaps he had already given her a ticket to a new life. Mrs. Davis, the elderly caregiver who had helped raise Noah since he was born, looked at Emily carefully. "Honey, you are very pale. Is something wrong?" "It is nothing. I am just tired," Emily lied. "Mrs. Davis, I need to go to Ethan's office. It is urgent." "Could you stay with Noah until tomorrow?" "Of course." "But what is so urgent that it can't wait until he gets back?" "It really can't, Mrs. Davis." Emily gave her son dinner, put him to bed, and read him a story about a good wizard who defeated evil witches. Noah fell asleep with a smile on his face. If only everything were as easy as in fairy tales, she thought. At 10 o'clock at night, Emily got in her car and drove towards Park Avenue, where the law firm was located. Ethan had been a senior partner there for 3 years, a position with a high salary, prestige, and the respect of clients. All of it had provided their family with a comfortable life, or so she thought. The firm occupied 2 floors of a modern skyscraper. Ethan's office was on the 2nd floor, in a corner of the building. Large windows, mahogany furniture, leather armchairs, everything looked solid and inspired confidence. Emily parked the car on a side street and looked around. The street was empty except for an occasional passerby and the hum of cars on the main avenue. The surrounding offices were dark. The workday had ended long ago. She took out the small silver key with a keychain in the shape of the scales of justice. She had given it to Ethan on their first anniversary. Justice, above all else, he had said then. What a cruel irony. The door opened easily. There must have been employees working overtime in their offices. Emily silently went up to the 2nd floor, careful that her heels did not make a sound on the marble staircase. Ethan's office greeted her with the scent of leather and expensive cologne. On the desk were neat piles of documents. In a corner, a safe, and along the wall, shelves full of binders. None of them read. Emily turned on the desk lamp and began her investigation. First, she looked in the desk drawers, standard paperwork, pens, stamps. In the bottom drawer, she found a USB drive labeled Personal. She took it. She might need it. Then she went to the filing cabinet. The files were arranged alphabetically and by subject: wills, deeds of sale, inheritance cases. Many binders, but none read. Where could it be? Emily searched everywhere. Behind the expensive modern art painting, in the safe, under the rug, and then her gaze fell on a small cabinet in a corner of the office. She approached and saw it was locked with a common padlock. Strange, why lock a cabinet in your own office? Emily tried several keys from Ethan's keychain. The 3rd one fit. The small cabinet door opened, and before her eyes, she saw several red folders neatly stacked on a shelf. There they were. Her heart raced. The first folder was labeled Andrade M. The last name did not ring a bell. Emily opened it and saw the will of an elderly woman leaving an apartment and a country house to, my God, Ethan Hayes. The 2nd folder, Castro, PN, a will with a large sum of money in favor of the same Ethan Hayes. The third folder, Jennings, CS, and this last name was familiar. Emily remembered her great-aunt, Catherine, her late mother's sister, who had passed away 6 months ago, childless, alone. She planned to leave her inheritance to her only grandniece. Opening the folder, Emily saw a will in which all of Catherine's properties, an apartment on the Upper East Side, valued at $800,000, a house in the Berkshires, and her bank savings passed to Ethan Hayes as a close family friend. "You bastard," Emily whispered. She herself had seen her aunt's original will. Catherine had shown it to her a month before she died. It was clearly written there, "I bequeath all my assets to my grandniece, Emily Hayes." Signature, date, notary seal, all in accordance with the law. And now, in front of her, was a fake document, and a very well-made one. Ethan had used his position to replace the documents. Emily took out her phone and photographed every page of the fake will. Then she examined the rest of the folders. There were 7 in total. 7 forged wills worth a total of over $7 million. How long has he been doing this? She thought as she looked at the documents. Judging by the dates, the fraud had begun 3 years ago, just when Ethan was promoted and gained access to the wills. And she not only discovered fake wills but also a second cell phone belonging to Ethan, which she unlocked using their son's birth date. There she saw the text messages between Ethan and Pamela. Of course, why else would he need a second phone on a vacation if he was with Pamela? "Honey, I settled another document today." Old man Morales did not even realize he was not signing a will for his grandson, but a deed of gift in my favor. When he dies, a mansion in Greenwich will be ours. Love, you are a genius. Soon we can buy a villa in Italy and live there like royalty, and let your wife stay with her medicines and her patients. Pamela, we just have to close the last case, my wife's inheritance. That is where most of the money is. After that, we will disappear. I will file for divorce, take the boy, and we will both go to Italy. Emily read the messages, feeling a mixture of rage and disgust. Not only were they cheating on her, but they were robbing defenseless elderly people. How many families had lost their inheritance because of their greed? She photographed all the messages. Then she opened Ethan's laptop. The password was the same as the phone's, their son's birthday. A model father, Emily smiled bitterly. In his email, she found even more evidence. Diagrams of the fraud, lists of victims, money laundering plans, all perfectly organized and hidden. Arrogant fool, Emily thought as she copied the files to the USB drive. Ethan was so sure of himself that he had not even bothered to encrypt the information. After the computer, she returned to the red folders. In one of them, a document made her turn pale, a petition to strip her of her parental rights over Noah, based on the defendant's mental instability and her inability to provide adequate care for the minor. Emily read on. The document was dated for the next day. So that was the plan. First, get the inheritance with the fake will. Then, take the child, claiming she was not mentally fit after losing the money, and Pamela would take her place as wife and mother in their new life. That was not going to happen. Emily returned all the folders to the cabinet and locked it. She had the evidence. She knew the enemy's plan. It was time to prepare the counterattack. She turned off the light, closed the office, and went down to the first floor. Outside, a light drizzle was falling. Emily got in the car and picked up her phone. It was too late for business calls, but in the morning, the real battle would begin. Ethan expected an easy victory in court against his trusting wife. Instead, he would receive a lesson he would never forget. Emily caressed her belly. The baby was too small to move, but she already felt the connection with him. "Forgive me, little one," she spoke mentally to her unborn child. "Mommy will do everything to protect you and your brother Noah." As she drove home, she was already drawing up her plan. First, find a good lawyer, then contact the defrauded families. And, of course, prepare a surprise for her dear husband upon his return from his business trip. Ethan thought he was smarter than everyone, but that night he had lost the most important game of his life, and he did not even know it. The next morning, Emily woke with a steely determination. The previous night had brought her not only proof of her husband's infidelity, but the full scale of his crimes. She knew what she had to do. First, she took Noah to daycare and warned the teacher that only she or Mrs. Davis could pick up the child. Ethan was not to get near their son until everything was settled. Then, she went to her job at the health clinic and requested a leave of absence for family matters. When she got home, she locked herself in her study and opened her laptop. Online, she found the contact information for several renowned lawyers specializing in family and criminal law. The first number answered immediately. "Roth and Associates," a male voice said. "Good morning. My name is Emily Hayes. I need an urgent consultation regarding fraud and document forgery. One moment, please. I will connect you with Mr. Roth. He handles those cases himself." Konstantin Roth was a man in his 40s, with a pleasant voice and a professional demeanor. After hearing a brief summary of the situation, he agreed to meet her in 2 hours. "Bring all the documents and evidence you have," he advised. "If everything you are telling me is true, we could be looking at a very serious case." Emily's next call was to a private investigator, Andrew Castle, recommended by a colleague from the clinic. "I need a background check on 2 people," she explained. "Ethan Hayes, a senior partner at a law firm, and Pamela Serrano, 25 years old, his paralegal. I am particularly interested in their financial situation, connections, and possible accomplices." "Understood. The standard fee is $5,000 for a complete dossier on each. It will take us 3 days." "Agreed. But I need the results sooner. I will pay extra for the urgency." After speaking with the detective, Emily tackled the most delicate part of the plan, contacting the families Ethan had defrauded. In the red folders, she had seen the addresses and phone numbers of the deceased testator's relatives. The first call was to the grandson of Antonia Morales, the same elderly woman Ethan had made sign a deed of gift instead of a will. "Hello? Max Morales?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Emily Hayes. I am the wife of the lawyer, Ethan Hayes, who handled your grandmother's documents." "Oh, yes, I remember. Why are you calling?" "Max, I have very bad news for you. Your grandmother was the victim of a fraud. Instead of a will in your favor, she signed a deed of gift to my husband." There was a long silence. "What? What are you saying?" "But my grandmother wanted to leave me the house." "Exactly, and I am willing to help you get justice. I have proof." The conversation lasted half an hour. Max was in shock but agreed to meet and discuss the details. Emily gave him her contact information and promised to call him in the next few days. The rest of the calls followed a similar pattern. The daughter of Vladimir Castro, the nephew of Maria Andrade, the son of George Pacheco. They all believed their relatives had died without leaving an inheritance. But in reality, a cunning lawyer had stolen it. By noon, Emily had a complete database of the victims. The total damage exceeded $20 million. Ethan and Pamela had set up a veritable criminal organization. At 1 in the afternoon, Emily arrived at Mr. Roth's office. Konstantin was a tall, pleasant-looking man. His office had a classic design: dark furniture, leather-bound books, portraits of famous jurists. "Well, Emily, let's see what you have brought me," he said as he sat behind his desk. Emily took out the printouts of the photos from the red folders, the copies of the emails, and the list of victims. Roth studied the documents in silence, occasionally raising an eyebrow or nodding. "The scale of this is astonishing," he said finally. "Your husband has created an entire system for stealing inheritances, and he has acted with incredible skill, using his position, professionally forging documents. What will happen to me? I am the wife of a con man. If you are not part of the system, nothing. In fact, you are a victim. Your husband planned to strip you of your inheritance and take your son. Plus, there are the emotional damages for the infidelity. And what will happen to him with this evidence? Grand larceny, forgery of a public document, abuse of power, at least 10 years in prison, maybe more." Emily felt a strange satisfaction. Justice would be served. "What do I need to do?" "First, file a complaint with the NYPD. I will help you draft it correctly. Second, gather all the victims and organize a class action lawsuit with the district attorney's office. Third, file for divorce and request full custody of your son. And what if Ethan tries to flee? He is abroad right now. We will issue an international arrest warrant. With this evidence, he will not get very far. They talked for another hour, discussing the details of the strategy. Roth agreed to represent Emily and all the victim families. The fees were not low, but the result would be worth it. Leaving the lawyer's office, Emily felt relieved. The plan was in motion, she had allies, and the evidence was gathered. All that was left was to wait for her husband's return and put an end to this story. On her way home, she stopped by the bank and checked the status of their joint accounts. As she expected, large sums of money had been withdrawn. Ethan was preparing to flee. But in her personal account, opened before she got married, was the money she had saved over years of working as a doctor. It was enough for the lawyer and expenses for the next few months. At home, Emily made herself a chamomile tea and sat down to analyze the information. The detective, Castle, had already sent her preliminary data on Pamela Serrano. He discovered that the woman was married to Victor Serrano, a construction engineer. They lived in a small apartment on the outskirts of Queens. They had debts, a modest income. Victor had no idea about his wife's activities. Another deceived spouse, Emily thought. How would he react to the news of his wife's infidelity and criminal activities? She looked up Victor Serrano's profile on social media. An ordinary 30-year-old man. Photos at work, family photos with Pamela. In the latest ones, from a month ago, they looked like a happy couple. Pamela was hugging her husband, smiling at the camera, and a month later, she was planning to run away with her lover. Emily sent Victor a private message. "Good afternoon. I am Emily Hayes. I need to talk to you about your wife, Pamela. It is a matter concerning your family. Could we meet tonight?" The reply came in half an hour. "What happened? Pamela is on a business trip. She is not back for a week. That is precisely what we need to talk about. It seems not everything is as you believe." Victor agreed to meet at a coffee shop near his home at 7 in the evening. Emily picked up Noah from daycare, gave him dinner, and left him with Mrs. Davis. The boy asked when Daddy would be back, and Emily vaguely replied, "Soon." The coffee shop was a small, cozy place with checkered tablecloths and the smell of freshly baked pastries. Victor Serrano was already sitting at a table in the corner, nervously looking at his watch. He was of average height, with a kind face and worried eyes. "Emily Hayes?" He stood up when he saw her. "Yes, that is me. Thank you for agreeing to meet." They ordered coffee and Emily got straight to the point. "Victor, what I am about to tell you may come as a shock, but you have the right to know the truth. Did something happen to Pamela?" "In a way, yes. Your wife is cheating on you with my husband, and together they are involved in a large-scale fraud scheme." Victor's face turned pale. "That is impossible. Pamela would not be capable of that." "Yes, she is." Emily took out the printouts of the text messages between Ethan and Pamela and the photos she had taken at the airport the day before. Victor read in silence. His left eyelid twitched. "Since when?" he asked in a weak voice. "According to the messages, for a year, maybe more. And the fraud, they are stealing inheritances from elderly people. Pamela helps Ethan forge wills. In 3 years, they have stolen over $20 million. Victor pushed the papers away and rubbed his face with his hands. "My God, I thought we were fine. She said she was working overtime for our future. We were planning how to buy a bigger apartment, go on vacation. Victor, they were planning to disappear. They only had one last job left, to steal my inheritance. Then they planned to resign and move to Italy. And me? Our marriage? Pamela was going to file for divorce. In the messages, she refers to you as a burden she had to get rid of." Victor clenched his fists. In his kind eyes, anger and pain appeared. 3 years of marriage. I was crazy about her. I worked 2 jobs to support us. And he could not finish the sentence. "Victor, I understand how painful this is for you. It is for me too, but we have the opportunity to get justice. What do you suggest? We join forces. I have already spoken with a lawyer. I have contacted the victim families. Tomorrow I will file a complaint with the NYPD. You can be a witness to the infidelity and Pamela's involvement in the fraud. And what will happen then? Ethan faces a minimum of 10 years in prison. Pamela will lose her job, her reputation, and possibly go to jail as well. All the stolen money will be returned to its rightful heirs, and we can have our marriages annulled under favorable conditions. Victor was silent for a long time, weighing the offer. "You know," he said finally, "I consider myself a good person. I do not wish harm on anyone, not even my enemies. But what Pamela did, it is a betrayal not just to me, but to all those elderly people they robbed. So you agree to help?" "Yes, I do." They talked for another hour, discussing the details of the plan. Victor was not only a decent person but also practical. He agreed to monitor Pamela upon her return, record their conversations, and gather more evidence. "By the way," he said before leaving, "I have copies of all of Pamela's documents: passport, criminal record, tax returns. When we applied for the loan for the apartment, the bank asked for everything. Maybe it will be useful." "I am sure it will. Thank you, Victor. Thank you. If it were not for you, I would still be living a lie, completely clueless, and Pamela, along with your husband, would still be stealing." They exchanged numbers and agreed to stay in touch. Emily had one more ally in the fight against the traitors. At home, a surprise awaited her. Detective Castle sent her a detailed report on the financial status of Ethan and Pamela. He discovered that in 3 years they had purchased several properties in the names of straw men: a condo in Marbella, a house in the mountains, a plot of land in a subdivision outside the city, all purchased with stolen money. In addition, the detective uncovered accounts in tax havens in Cyprus and Switzerland. The total amount of savings exceeded $7 million. Ethan and Pamela were preparing for a life of luxury abroad, but they would not get it, Emily promised herself. She went to bed late, but she slept soundly. Tomorrow the most important day would begin. Ethan and Pamela would return from their business trip and discover that their plans had fallen apart, and Emily Hayes, from a victim, had become a hunter. The next day, Emily woke up with the feeling that her life would change completely today. The sun was shining outside, a good sign. She had breakfast with Noah, took him to daycare, and then headed to the Central NYPD precinct. Inspector Williams, the officer on duty, listened to her story attentively. When Emily placed the folder of evidence on the table, his eyes widened. "Grand larceny," he muttered as he reviewed the documents. "This is enough for a whole organization. They are returning from abroad soon. If we do not act, they could escape." "Understood. I will pass the case to Detective Vargas," he shouted down the hall. "Maria!" A woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a formal suit, entered the office. Detective Vargas looked like a person who did not mess around. "What do we have?" she asked as she sat down. Williams summarized the situation for her. Vargas took the documents and began to study them with professional interest. "Good work," she said after 10 minutes. "Emily, where did you get such detailed material?" "I accidentally discovered my husband's plans and decided to do my own investigation. Breaking into someone else's office is a crime. I used the key my husband gave me personally, and I did not steal any documents, I only photographed them." Vargas nodded. "Technically, you are right. Besides, the public benefit of your action is clear. We will open a case, and the arrest? As soon as your husband sets foot in the country, we will arrest him. We have sufficient grounds." Emily signed the complaint and gave a detailed statement. The process took 3 hours. Leaving the police station, she felt that the law was on her side. The next stop was Mr. Roth's office. Constantine already had the documents prepared to file in court: divorce petition, request for full custody of the child, division of assets, he listed, plus compensation for emotional damages of $500,000. Isn't that too much? No. Considering the infidelity, the attempt to strip you of your inheritance and take your son, it is even a little. But the courts are conservative. They rarely award such large sums, so at least we have a basis. They discussed the strategy for the case. Roth was optimistic. With such evidence, the outcome was practically guaranteed. At 3 in the afternoon, Emily met with the representatives of the victim families. Max Morales came with his mother, an elderly woman who could barely hold back her tears. My mother-in-law wanted to leave the house to her grandson, she said. She worked her whole life, saving every penny, and that scoundrel stole it all. Vladimir Castro's daughter, Soledad, was more determined. I want that lawyer to rot in jail. My father left me an apartment and savings for my children's education. Because of Hayes, my children might not be able to finish their studies. In total, 7 families gathered. The total damage amounted to nearly $20 million. Roth explained the process of filing a class action lawsuit and assured them of the return of the stolen assets. When Hayes is arrested, we will freeze his assets, the lawyer said. Apartments, country houses, bank accounts, cars, everything will go towards paying compensation to the victims. In the evening, Emily received a message from Victor. Pamela told me she is coming back tomorrow morning. I am ready for the conversation. Good luck, she replied. Remember, record everything. At 10 at night, Detective Castle called. Emily, I have news. Your husband and his mistress landed at JFK an hour ago. They are in a taxi right now. Thank you. So, the most exciting part starts tomorrow. Emily went to bed early but had trouble falling asleep. Tomorrow, Ethan would discover that his plans had failed. How would he react? Would he try to flee, feign ignorance, or surrender immediately? At 6:30 in the morning, a call woke her. Ethan's number appeared on the screen. Hello, she answered calmly. Emily, it is me. I have landed. Her husband's voice was normal, with no trace of guilt or worry. How was the trip? Did you like Chicago? Yes, everything was fine. Hey, today I have to go to court for your aunt's inheritance case. Remember I told you about it? Yes, I remember. And what will happen? It is just formalities. The will is in order, but there is a small detail to correct. There will be no problems. Emily smiled to herself. Even now he was still lying. Ethan, can I ask you something? Of course. How is Pamela? Did she have a business trip too? The silence that followed was too long for such a simple question. Pamela? Oh, yes. She is fine. Why? For no reason. You mention her a lot lately. She is a good employee. That is all. Well, I have to get ready. See you tonight. Of course, dear. Emily hung up and smiled. Ethan did not yet know that his case today would turn into a monumental disaster. Detective Vargas had promised her yesterday that he would be arrested upon arrival at the courthouse. At 8 in the morning, she took Noah to daycare and headed to the courthouse. She wanted to see with her own eyes how the world of the man who had planned to destroy her life would crumble. The courthouse building greeted her with its usual hustle and bustle. Lawyers, plaintiffs, defendants, witnesses, all rushing from one place to another. Emily found the courtroom where the case of Catherine Jennings's inheritance would be heard. At 9:30, Ethan arrived. He was wearing his best suit, carrying a briefcase with documents. He looked confident and calm. Beside him walked Pamela, in a discreet black dress. Her demeanor was professional, but Emily noticed how Ethan discreetly brushed his assistant's hand. We will get the last $1 million and be free, she heard him say. Yes, free of money, of work, of reputation, Emily replied in her mind. At 10 in the morning, the hearing did not begin. The judge, Judge Elena Macarena, had already been informed that a criminal about to flee the country would be in the courtroom and that he should be arrested immediately. Ethan sat with Pamela inside the courtroom. Emily also entered, accompanied by Mr. Roth. Ethan saw his wife and turned pale. Emily, what are you doing here? Defending my rights, dear. The right to Aunt Catherine's inheritance, which you planned to steal. What are you talking about? What proof? Proof that you forged the will, and also of your systematic fraud. That is absurd, Ethan stood up. I am a lawyer with an impeccable reputation. Impeccable. Until yesterday, Emily said calmly. At that moment, 2 people in plain clothes entered the courtroom, Detective Vargas and an officer. Ethan saw them and stepped back. Ethan Hayes, Vargas said. Yes, you are under arrest for the crimes of grand larceny and forgery of a public document. You have the right to remain silent. What? You are mistaken. Pamela got up from her seat, but the second officer was already approaching her. Pamela Serrano, you are under arrest as an accomplice in the crime. I did not do anything, she shouted. It was his idea. "We will discuss that at the station," the officer replied indifferently. They put handcuffs on Ethan. He turned to Emily. In his eyes, there was shock and incomprehension. "Emily, what is happening? It is a mistake, right?" "There is no mistake, Ethan. You wanted to rob me and take my son, but you miscalculated. It turns out I am not the foolish, credulous wife you thought I was. But we are a family. The family ended when you decided to cheat on me with Pamela, and especially when you started robbing defenseless elderly people." They took Ethan and Pamela out of the courtroom. Pamela was crying. Ethan walked in silence, his head bowed. The judge postponed the hearing until the circumstances were clarified. "Congratulations," Roth said, shaking Emily's hand. "The first blow was a direct hit. Thank you. But this is just the beginning. There is a lot of work ahead." Leaving the courthouse, Emily felt a strange peace. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and today Ethan had tasted the first bite. The arrest of Ethan and Pamela was just the beginning of a cascade of revelations. Emily returned home in high spirits, but she knew the hardest part was yet to come. At noon, Victor Serrano called. His voice sounded tired and confused. "Emily, Pamela has not come home. I am worried." "Victor, sit down. What I am about to tell you is going to hurt." She told him what had happened at the courthouse. Victor listened in silence, sighing from time to time. "So they arrested her?" "Yes. She is in a detention center right now, along with my almost ex-husband." "Ex-husband? I filed for divorce this morning. After what he has done, we have no future." "And what will happen to Pamela?" "It depends on many things. If she cooperates with the investigation, testifies against Ethan, she might get a suspended sentence. If she remains stubborn, she faces several years as an accomplice in a fraud of this magnitude. 3 to 7 years in prison." Victor was silent for a long time. "You know," he said finally, "I thought I would feel sorry for her, but I do not. She not only cheated on me, but on all the people they robbed. Let the law deal with her." "Victor, the detective will want to talk to you. Your testimony is important for the case." "Of course. I am willing to help." In the afternoon, Emily picked up Noah from daycare. The boy asked where Daddy was, and she answered honestly. "Daddy did something wrong. Now he has to answer for it." "And will he come back?" "Not soon. Maybe he will never come back. Now it will just be you and me. You, me, and everything will be okay." Noah nodded, like a little 4-year-old philosopher. "Mommy, you will not leave me, right?" "Never, my love. Mommy will never leave you." The next day, the real work began. Detective Vargas summoned Emily for a detailed statement that lasted 4 hours. At the end, Vargas said, "Emily, thanks to you, we have uncovered a huge fraudulent scheme. It turns out there are more victims than we thought." "How many?" "For now, 12 families. The total damage exceeds $35 million. Emily was astonished. Her husband's crime was even greater than she had imagined. And the accomplices? Besides Pamela Serrano, we have identified 2 more, the real estate appraiser Andrew Cabrera and the real estate agent Tatiana Navarro. They helped manage the transactions with the stolen properties. Will they be arrested too? We already arrested them last night." After the interrogation, Emily went straight to see her lawyer. Roth greeted her with good news. "The court has accepted your divorce petition for processing. Given the circumstances, the process will be quick, and the custody of the child. Ethan will lose his parental rights due to his arrest and the criminal case. Noah will stay with you. And the properties? All of Ethan's assets are frozen. Apartments, country houses, bank accounts, cars, everything will go towards paying compensation to the victims. You will get half of the marital property not related to the crime, that is, the apartment where you live now. In addition, monetary compensation for your share in other properties and your aunt's inheritance. The fake will has been declared null and void. You will get everything that is yours, the apartment on the Upper East Side, the house in the mountains, the bank deposits." Emily calculated mentally. Including the inheritance, she would become a wealthy woman with enough for a comfortable life. By the way, about the child. In the last few days, with the stress, Emily had almost forgotten about her pregnancy, and suddenly she felt a pang in her lower abdomen. "Constantine, "Excuse me. I have to go. I do not feel well." "Of course, take care of yourself." On the way home, the pain intensified. Emily stopped at a pharmacy, but suddenly she felt dizzy and everything went black. Emily woke up in a hospital. Beside her, doctors and nurses, and there she learned that she had lost the baby. The pregnancy had been terminated. Emily cried. When she calmed down, she called the caregiver and asked her to pick up Noah from daycare and take him to her house, explaining what had happened. She spent 3 days in the hospital. Entering her house, she decided she had to move on. She had Noah, who needed a happy, healthy, and loving mother. An hour later, the caregiver brought her son. She hugged him and decided not to tell him for now that his little brother was no longer in Mommy's belly. In the evening, Detective Castle called. "Emily, I have news about your husband's financial dealings." "I am listening." "We have found 3 more accounts in tax havens. The total sum of stolen money exceeds $45 million. Ethan prepared his escape thoroughly. Can that money be recovered?" "We are in contact with international agencies. The process is complex, but there is a chance." The next day, Emily received an unexpected call. It was Pamela Serrano from the detention center. "Emily, it is Pamela. They gave me one call." "I am listening." "I want to tell everything, testify against Ethan. But I have one condition." "What is it?" "Meet with me. There are things you need to know." "About what?" "About what Ethan planned to do to you and your son. It is much worse than you think." Emily agreed to meet. Curiosity overcame her aversion. The detention center was a grim building in an industrial park. The visiting room, bare walls, a table, 2 chairs, bars on the window. Pamela looked terrible. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. There was no trace of the self-assured young woman. "Thank you for coming," she said in a weak voice. "I am listening, Emily. I want you to know I never wanted to hurt you. Ethan told me you had not loved each other for a long time and that the divorce was inevitable. And you believed him. I was in love, blind and stupid. He promised he would marry me, that we would buy a house in Italy. Children." "Children?" "I am pregnant, Emily. With Ethan's child. I found out last week." Emily felt a pang in her heart. He was going to have a child with his mistress, while her own baby had not survived. "Why do you think it is Ethan's?" "My husband and I were careful, because I was going to leave him for yours." "And what else did you want to tell me about Ethan's plans?" "He did not just plan to divorce you. He planned—" Pamela hesitated. "What did he plan?" "To kill you, after you gave birth. To make it look like an accident or postpartum depression." Emily felt her blood run cold. "Are you kidding me?" "No. He has contacts in the criminal world. People who know how to eliminate obstacles. Ethan said it was simpler. No need to divide assets in the divorce." "And you kept quiet?" "I thought he was not serious, that they were just words." "And when did you realize he was serious?" "When he showed me pictures of those people, he told me how they worked. Then I got scared, but it was too late. I was his accomplice." Emily was in shock. So he not only planned to rob her, but to kill her, and she had been miraculously saved by discovering his plans at the airport. "Pamela, do you have proof?" "Text messages with those people. Ethan thought he had deleted them all, but I took screenshots. I saved them on a USB drive." "Where is the drive?" "At my house, in a box on my dresser, a small pink one." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I realize that Ethan is a monster. He used me just like he used you and everyone else. And when he no longer needed me, he would have discarded me too. And your husband, Victor is a good man. I was an idiot to betray him. Now I want to, at least, redeem part of my guilt." "What do you want in return?" "Tell Victor I am sorry, and let him know the truth about the child." After the meeting with Pamela, Emily went straight to see Detective Vargas. The new information radically changed the case. "A contract killing?" Vargas asked. "Are you sure?" "Pamela is willing to testify and has evidence." "Then this is not just fraud. It is an organized crime group. We need to conduct an additional operation." Vargas immediately organized a search of Pamela's apartment. Victor let them in and showed them where the USB drive was. There, indeed, they found the text messages from Ethan with two individuals, Miguel Moreno and Dennis Castaño, men with criminal records. "We need to solve the problem with the wife radically," Ethan wrote. "After she gives birth, she is depressed. A suicide would not be surprising." "Understood. The payment? $200,000. Half up front, half after," Moreno replied. "Agreed." Emily read the messages, feeling a chilling terror. They were not only cheating on her, but they planned to eliminate her from the world with the same coldness a normal person plans a vacation. "We need to arrest Moreno and Castaño," Vargas said. "Do you have any information on them?" "No, but I can ask Detective Castle. He has contacts in the underworld." Castle responded quickly. In 2 hours, he sent a dossier on the two suspects: Miguel Moreno, a hitman with 2 murder convictions; Dennis Castaño, his partner, an expert in simulating accidents. Professionals. "If their plan had succeeded," Vargas said, "you would not have suspected anything, and in a few months you would have been the victim of an accident." In the evening, Emily met with Victor. He looked sad, but firm. "Did Pamela send you any message?" he asked. "She asks for your forgiveness, and she wants you to know she is pregnant." Victor turned pale. "With his child?" "Yes, according to her. You two were careful. With him, she was not. And now Pamela realizes that Ethan just used her. She regrets it. And what will happen to the child? That is her decision. But if she has it, she will raise it alone. Ethan will be in prison for a long time. And I cannot forgive her, after all this." "That is your right, Victor. No one will judge you." Victor also wanted to start a new life, free of lies and betrayals. He had also filed for divorce. The next day, Moreno and Castaño were arrested. In the search, weapons, false documents, and messages from other clients were found. It turned out that Ethan was just one of the group's many clients. "This is turning into a federal case," Vargas said. "They will probably transfer it to the main office." "And what will happen to Ethan?" "Attempted murder will be added to the fraud charge. Now he is not facing 10 years, but much more." Emily felt a strange satisfaction. Justice had completely triumphed. Ethan would get what he deserved for all his crimes. A week after the arrest of Moreno and Castaño, the investigation escalated to another level. Emily received a summons from the investigator, but it was not Vargas's office that awaited her, but a large conference room. At a long table sat several people in suits. In the center, a man in his 50s with medals on his uniform. "Emily, let me introduce you to Colonel Samuel Black, head of the Organized Crime Unit," Vargas said. "Please, have a seat." "What we are about to discuss now," Black said, "must remain in the strictest confidence. We have some questions for you." "Go ahead, I am listening." "Thanks to you, we have uncovered a large criminal network, but we have reason to believe that your husband is not the leader, but just an enforcer." "You mean he has a boss? Someone who provides him with information about potential victims, organizes the sale of stolen properties, and gives him protection?" Emily's brow furrowed. In Ethan's messages, no boss was mentioned. And where does this information come from? Pamela Serrano has given an additional statement. It turns out that Ethan met regularly with a certain Uncle Nick. He gave him a share of the profits and received instructions for new targets. And who is this Uncle Nick? "We do not know yet." Ethan refuses to talk. "But we have some leads." Black took out a folder with photos. "Security cameras captured your husband meeting with an older man near a restaurant on the Upper East Side. The last meeting was 2 days before his trip to Miami." In the photos, Emily saw Ethan with a gray-haired man wearing an expensive coat. The man's face was turned away, but his general figure was visible. "Does this face look familiar to you?" "No, I have never seen him." "And the voice? Has Ethan ever spoken on the phone in front of you with someone he called Uncle Nick?" Emily tried to remember. In recent months, Ethan often spoke on the phone, going into another room, but she did not remember hearing that name. "I do not recall such a conversation." "Understood." Then, another question. Ethan had access to the Notary Public's database, but the information about private clients, their income, properties, came from somewhere else. Where exactly? Judging by the thefts, he had a source in the IRS or the banking system. Someone was passing him data on wealthy elderly people. Emily pondered. It was true. How did Ethan know the marital status of the clients, their heirs, the size of their savings? Could Uncle Nick be that source? It is very likely. That is why we need your help. In what? We want to organize a meeting between Ethan and that person under our control. But for that, Ethan has to contact him himself. And why would he do that? If we promise him a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation. Or, Black paused, if he thinks he can escape. How? You mean you will break him out of jail? Of course, under our control. Ethan will try to contact his boss, ask for help. We will catch the contact and get to Uncle Nick. And the risk? Minimal. Ethan will be under constant surveillance. At the first real escape attempt, he will be arrested again. Emily thought about it. The plan was risky, but tempting. Capturing the entire criminal network would mean protecting other potential victims. Agreed. What do I have to do? Visit your husband in jail. Tell him you are willing to forgive him and help him. Maybe he will share information about his boss. But I have filed for divorce. Tell him you have changed your mind. That love is stronger than resentment. The important thing is that you convince him of your sincerity. Emily agreed. The next day, she went to the detention center where Ethan was being held. Her ex-husband looked terrible, unshaven, thin, in a prison uniform. There was nothing left of his former arrogance. Emily, I can't believe it. You came. Yes, I came. She sat down across from him. How is Noah? And the baby? Forgive me. I was a fool. Pamela tricked me. The money blinded me. They are fine, Emily lied. I have been thinking a lot about us, about our family. And what conclusion did you come to? That I do not want to destroy our family because of your mistakes. Yes, you were wrong, but we can fix everything. Ethan's eyes lit up with hope. Are you willing to forgive me? I am. On one condition. Tell them the whole truth. About your accomplices, about who helped you, gave you information. Maybe the investigation will be lenient and reduce your sentence. Ethan hesitated. Emily, it is complicated. There are people it is better not to bother. What kind of people? Influential, connected to the government. If I talk, not only will I suffer. Ethan, you are facing life in prison. There can be nothing worse. Yes, there is. People like me do not last long in prison, especially if they find out I have ratted out the wrong people. Who are you talking about? Ethan looked around, making sure the guard was not listening. Uncle Nick, Nicholas Ortega, Deputy Commissioner of the IRS. He runs the whole operation. Emily struggled not to show her surprise, so a high-ranking government official was involved. What exactly does he do? He provides information on wealthy taxpayers, lists of properties, data on heirs, marital status, and he also provides protection. If any relative suspects, he buries the case. In exchange for what? Half of the profits. Ortega takes the largest share, but he also runs the greatest risk. And now he probably wants to get rid of me. I know too much about his connections, his foreign accounts, his shell companies. Ethan, what if the investigation guarantees your safety? What safety? Ortega has connections in the DA's office, in the courts, in the prison. He will get to me anywhere. Emily realized she had obtained crucial information. Now she just had to use it correctly. And what if you escape? Escape? To where? I am in a detention center. Anything can happen. A transfer to court? A medical checkup? Even if you escape, where would you go? Without money, without documents. To see Uncle Nick. He will help you if you are useful to him. Ortega would only help me hide if I am useful to him, and now I am a risk and a burden to him. But if you offer him something valuable, like what? For example, information about the investigation, what they know and what they do not. Ethan thought about it. You know, maybe you are right. If I tell Ortega how the investigation is going, warn him of the danger, maybe he will help me flee the country. Try to contact him from here. All calls are monitored, through a lawyer or by passing a note to a cellmate. Emily, are you sure you are on my side? You are not working for the investigation? Emily pretended to be hurt. Ethan, I am your wife, the mother of your children. Of course, I will always be on your side. Sorry, I think I am going crazy in these walls. I understand. The important thing is that we find a way to get you out of here. Ethan believed in his wife's sincerity and promised to try to contact Ortega. Emily left with a sense of victory. In the car, she immediately called Colonel Black. Samuel, I have a name. Nicholas Ortega, Deputy Commissioner of the IRS. Ortega. Wow. We have long suspected his corruption, but we had no proof. Now we will. Ethan is willing to contact him. Excellent. Let's start the operation. The operation to capture Ortega was called Operation Vengeance. Colonel Black personally supervised every stage. Emily had been a crucial part of the chain, but her active participation ended there. From now on, it is too dangerous, Black explained to her. Ortega is a serious adversary. He has connections, money, power. If he finds out you are working for us, he might try to eliminate you. But I want to see the end of this case. You have already done the most important thing. You have led us to the boss. The rest is for professionals. Emily agreed to stay on the sidelines but asked to be kept informed. Black promised to give her regular updates. 3 days later, Ethan's escape was staged. During a transfer to the courthouse, the prisoner transport van had an accident. In the chaos, Ethan escaped. In reality, he was released under the control of the agents. Ethan ran and borrowed a cell phone from a student, pretending to call an ambulance for an old man who had fallen on the corner. From memory, he dialed Ortega's number. The agent's car followed him from a distance. Nicholas, it is Ethan. Are you crazy? Calling me directly? I have no choice. I have escaped, but they will find me soon. I need help. What help? You are burned. Documents, money, a way out of the country. I have information about the investigation. What information? They know about you. They are looking for a certain Uncle Nick. They are about to locate you. There was a long silence. Where are you now? In the city, with a borrowed phone. Then, I will hide in the basement of an abandoned building. Vasquez Street, number 15, back basement. Wait there. In an hour, someone will come for you. The call was cut off. Ethan returned the phone to the surprised student and headed to the indicated location, followed by the agents. An hour later, a black Audi with tinted windows arrived at the building. 2 men in leather jackets got out and entered the basement. "Ethan!" one of them shouted. "I am here," Ethan replied from the darkness. "Let's go. The boss is waiting for you." They put Ethan in the car and took him away. 3 teams followed them, alternating cars and motorcycles. They could not lose the target. The Audi stopped near a luxury restaurant, the Monarch, on the Gold Coast. They took Ethan through the back entrance to a private office on the 2nd floor. Behind a large desk sat Nicholas Ortega, a man in his 60s with gray hair and a cold gaze. Beside him, 2 bodyguards. "Well, well, Ethan," Ortega said with irritation. "What a mess you have made." "Nicholas, it is not my fault. My wife turned out to be smarter than I thought." "Your wife is a minor problem. The problem is that you got caught. And that means you are dragging us all down." "But I have not said anything. I have been quiet as a tomb. For now, you are quiet. But what will happen when you face life in prison? You will sing like a canary. I will keep quiet. I promise." "Ethan, you have disappointed me. I invested a lot in you. I gave you the chance to make millions, and you have ruined everything for a woman. Give me a chance to fix it. Help me get out of the country. I will disappear forever." Ortega smiled dismissively. "Abroad? Do you take me for a fool? In a month, you would rat me out to foreign special services in exchange for asylum? No, I am not a traitor. Everyone is a traitor, Ethan. When life is at stake, everyone betrays. You know, I have a more radical idea." "What is it?" "You die today. In an escape attempt. The dead do not testify." Ethan turned pale. "Nicholas, you cannot do that." "I can and I will. Alejandro, Victor," he said to his bodyguards, "take him to the woods. Let him be breakfast for the wild dogs." The bodyguards approached Ethan. He backed away. "Wait, I have information. Important." "What information?" "About the investigation. They are planning an operation against you. They know about your accounts. How do you know? My wife told me. She is collaborating with the investigation. Ortega turned sharply. What did you say? Your wife works for the police? Yes. She has found out about your plans. They plan to arrest you tomorrow. You are lying. No. Check it if you want. At that moment, the office door burst open. Agents in bulletproof vests entered. NYPD, hands up. Ortega tried to draw a weapon but was quickly subdued. His bodyguards did not resist. They knew they were finished. Nicholas Ortega, you are under arrest for organizing a criminal group, corruption, and involvement in fraud. Ortega looked at Ethan with pure hatred. In the end, you betrayed me, you bastard. I did not want to. You will rot in jail, rat. Colonel Black himself put the handcuffs on Ortega. The game is over, Nicholas. We know about your foreign accounts, your shell companies, your bribes. There is enough for several life sentences. The arrest of Ortega was a bombshell. A corrupt official, the mastermind of a criminal scheme that had stolen over $1 billion from the state. Cases like this made the front pages of the newspapers. Emily saw the news on television. Ethan and Ortega in handcuffs, images of the raids, comments from experts. Justice had triumphed. In the evening, Colonel Black called. Emily, the operation was a success. Thanks to you, we have dismantled the largest corruption scheme in recent years. And what happened to the other accomplices? All arrested. Ortega, his people at the IRS, the real estate agents, the appraisers, the entire network has been dismantled. How many years are they facing? Many. The court will decide. And the damages? All assets are frozen. The victim families will receive full compensation. A week later, the hearing for the divorce of Emily and Ethan was held. The process took half an hour. Given the circumstances, the court saw no reason to maintain the marriage. Leaving the courthouse, Emily felt light. A dark chapter of her life had ended. Ahead, a new beginning. Victor Serrano had also divorced. Pamela signed all the documents without resistance. She was sentenced to 3 years thanks to her cooperation with the investigation. She decided to have the child. 6 months passed since Ethan's arrest. Emily's life changed completely. She received her aunt's inheritance, sold the apartment, and bought a large house in a subdivision outside of New York. A quiet place with a garden where Noah, now 5, could play. She worked in a small private clinic. Good income, flexible hours. She had enough time for her son. Noah adapted quickly to the new life. Children, in general, adapt easily to changes. He went to a new daycare, made friends with the neighborhood children. He no longer asked about his father. "Mommy, will I get a new daddy?" he asked once during dinner. "I do not know, sweetie. Would you like that? I want one who is good and does not hurt us. If we get a new daddy, I assure you he will be good." Emily was not lying. After everything that had happened, she had become very cautious with men. Trust had to be earned. Victor Serrano became a frequent visitor to her home. At first, he came for work-related matters, helping with repairs, fixing things. Then, the visits became more frequent and less professional. Victor turned out to be a wonderful man, honest, reliable, hard-working, and he immediately got along with Noah. The boy was drawn to him, sensing his sincerity and kindness. "Uncle Victor, can you be my daddy?" Noah asked once. Victor blushed. He looked at Emily. "That is not for me to decide, Noah. The grown-ups decide that. But I want you to be my daddy. You are good." In the evening, when Noah was asleep, Emily and Victor talked in the kitchen over coffee. "Emily, I have to tell you something," he began hesitantly. "I am listening. I love coming here. I love being with you. And with Noah, I feel at home. I like your company too. I have." He stopped. "Victor, just say it. I am in love with you. I know it might sound strange. We have both been through a betrayal, but I think we can overcome it." Emily was silent, weighing her words. She liked Victor too. But after Ethan, she was afraid to open her heart again. "Victor, I need time to think. Of course, I am in no hurry. I just wanted you to know how I feel." They saw each other for 3 more months before Emily agreed to a serious relationship. Victor was patient, understanding what she had been through and not pressuring her. Their wedding was simple, with only close friends. Mr. Roth also attended, who over time had become not just a lawyer, but a true friend. "Emily, you are incredibly brave," he said in a toast. "Few women are capable of fighting so masterfully for justice. You are an inspiration." Colonel Black sent a telegram. "I wish you all the happiness. Your courage uncovered a huge criminal scheme. You are a true hero." In the evening, the newlyweds were alone. Noah was sleeping. Emily and Victor were sitting on the terrace, looking at the stars. "Are you happy?" Emily asked. "What do you mean?" "For having joined your life with a woman with a past like mine." "Emily, your past is what shows what a strong person you are. You did not break, you did not become bitter, you did not give up. On the contrary, you fought until the end. There are very few women like that." "And you are not afraid that I will discover something again?" she joked. "I am terrified," Victor replied seriously. "That is why I will always be honest with you. It would hurt me more to deceive you than anything else." They laughed. In the year they had known each other, Victor had never given her a reason to doubt. He was an open book, with no secrets, no double lives. The trial of Ethan, Ortega, and their accomplices was widely covered by the media. They called it the case of the century, and a victory for justice. Emily attended all the sessions as a victim and witness. It was painful to see Ethan again, but it was necessary. That story had to be put to rest. Ethan looked terrible. He had lost weight, gone gray. His eyes had lost their sparkle. There was nothing left of the arrogant lawyer. In his testimony, he tried to justify himself several times. "I did not want to hurt my wife. I was confused. I was influenced." "Influenced by whom?" the prosecutor asked. "By Ortega. He forced me to join the scheme. He threatened me." "And the attempted murder of your wife? Did he force you to do that too?" "I was not going to kill her. They were just words. We have text messages with the hitmen. You paid a down payment of $100,000. Ethan was silent. There was no point in justifying himself. The evidence was overwhelming. Ortega was more dignified. He did not justify himself, did not blame anyone. He remained silent or answered in monosyllables. "Do you admit your guilt?" the judge asked. "Partially." "In what, exactly?" "In corruption. The rest, let the court decide." The trial lasted 3 months. During that time, dozens of witnesses were questioned, hundreds of documents were reviewed. The sentence was harsh. Nicholas Ortega was sentenced to life in prison. Ethan Hayes to 31 years in prison. Pamela to 3 years. Leaving the courthouse, Emily felt relieved. Finally, the story was over. Ethan would no longer cheat, steal, or betray. Outside, Victor was waiting for her with Noah. "How did it go?" Victor asked, hugging his wife. "It is over. He got 31 years. That is a long time. It is fair. For such a crime and a murder plot, it should be more." "And how do you feel?" Emily thought about it. What did she really feel? Joy, satisfaction, pity for her ex-husband? "Peace," she finally replied. "Justice has been served. Now we can move on." In the evening, at home, they celebrated the end of the trial. A simple family celebration. They toasted with a glass of red wine to the new life. In just over a year, everything had changed. From being a cheated wife, Emily had become a happily married woman. From a victim to a hero. From a person who was almost robbed and killed to someone who brought justice to many families. 5 years passed since Ethan's arrest. During that time, Emily's life settled down completely. She continued to work. Her reputation as a doctor was impeccable. Patients appreciated her professionalism and humanity. Her family also grew. 3 years ago, she and Victor had a daughter, Anna. She became the center of the universe. Noah adored his little sister and helped his parents take care of her. "Now we have a big family," Victor said, watching the children at the table, "just like I always dreamed." Emily was also happy. After all the trials, she valued the warmth of home, loyalty, the simple happiness of motherhood even more. Ethan was serving his sentence in a maximum security prison. In 5 years, he never wrote, called, or tried to see his son. Noah had almost forgotten his biological father. To him, his father was Victor. "Where is my real daddy?" the boy asked one morning. "He lives very far away," Emily replied. "He did something bad, and now he is paying for it." "And will he come back?" "Not soon. And even if he comes back, we will not have contact with him." "Why?" "Because he hurt our family. And you have to stay away from people who hurt you." Noah nodded, like a little philosopher. Children understand more than adults think. Pamela served her sentence and moved to another city. According to rumors, she got married. Emily was no longer interested in her fate. That chapter was closed. Ortega received an additional sentence for trying to bribe the prison administration. The victim families received full compensation. Many of them remained friends with Emily, grateful for her help. On her birthday, Max Morales came with his wife, Soledad Castro, with her children. They had become not just acquaintances, but true friends. "You saved our family," Max's mother said. "If it were not for you, we would have lost the house our grandmother left us." "I was just defending myself," Emily replied. And helping others was something that came up. Mr. Roth was also a frequent visitor. They were united not only by a professional friendship, but a personal one. "Emily, you changed my life," he confessed once. "Working on your case showed me that law can be not just a business, but a service to justice." "And what has changed?" "Now I take cases not only from wealthy clients, I help simple people who have been victims of scammers." "That is wonderful. It means our story has brought something good, not just to our family." From time to time, Colonel Black called Emily, asking about the family. "How are you, Emily?" he would ask. "Very well, Samuel. We live quietly, raising the children. And no crime stories. No more. Thank God. Once was enough. It is a shame. You would make a great detective." "Thank you. But I prefer to heal people than to catch criminals." On the 5th anniversary of Ethan's arrest, the family went to their country house. They spent weekends and holidays there. By the river, they received guests, organized family parties. "Mommy, tell me the story of the bad uncle, Anna, who was already 3, asked, sitting on Emily's lap. "What bad uncle? The one who wanted to take our house?" The children knew a general version of the story, without frightening details, adapted for them. "Once upon a time, there was a bad uncle who cheated people," Emily began. "He stole their houses and their money, and he also wanted to steal our house." "And what did Mommy do?" "Mommy found out his plans and told the police, and the police caught the bad uncle and put him in jail." "And he will not get out?" "Not soon. And when he gets out, we will live somewhere else, and Daddy Victor will still be with us." "Of course, sweetie. Daddy Victor will always be with us." Anna, satisfied, ran to play with her brother. Emily followed her with her gaze, thinking about how life had changed. 5 years ago, she was the unhappy wife of a con man, ignorant of her husband's double life. Now, a happy mother of 2, a successful doctor, the beloved wife of a good man. Victor came over, hugged her, and sat down beside her. They were silent, holding hands, each thinking their own thoughts. In 5 years, they had learned to value the simple joys: family dinners, the children's laughter, late-night conversations, plans for the future. Somewhere, Ethan was serving his sentence, thinking about how stupidly he had lost everything. Pamela was raising a child in another city, trying to forget the past. Ortega was spending his last days in a cell, and Emily had built a new life on the ruins of the old one. Without lies, without betrayals, without fear, with love, trust, and faith in justice. Family secrets. That is what this story could be called. But the secrets were revealed, and the family found a new happiness, honest, deserved, and built on the solid foundation of truth.